The fraud. We didn't listen to what the fake news had to say. The MAGA movement rose up and voted like their lives depended on it.
Welcome back to the Sunday Show. I'm Jonathan Capehart. While elected Republicans are busy defending Donald Trump following Monday's Mar-a-Lago surge, a new crop of Republicans demands our attention. Election deniers have won gubernatorial primaries in key states, with at least 4 of them who will be in closely contested general election matches. Electing even one election denier running for governor under the Republican banner could have major, terrifying implications for 2024, whether Trump runs or not. Joining me now, Dana Milbank, opinion columnist at The Washington Post and author of the new book, The Destructionists. Also with us are Michael Steele, former chair of the Republican Party and an MSNBC political analyst, and Olivia Troy, former top aide to Vice President Mike Pence. Thank you all very much for being here. Olivia, I want to go off topic just a little bit before we talk about the big topic at hand. I need to ask you about something you said on Deadline White House. I believe it was Friday. Let's watch and I'll ask you about it on the other side.
I'll tell you, I found classified information in the ladies' room of the White House one time in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, and I immediately walked it right up to security and said, I just found this in the bathroom. I covered it up. I put it in a folder. It wasn't marked properly. The folder wasn't, because I was not expecting to walk in the ladies' room and find a document like that.
I mean, Olivia, that was a stunning revelation that you made and left me wondering, was that the only time that you saw that happen? Because everything that we've heard about the Trump White House, it seems like those kinds of breaches happened a lot. But I also wonder, were they taken seriously?
Yeah, look, that's a true story. I remember the panic, because when you hold a security clearance and you find documents like that, I can speak for many in the intelligence community. There is sort of a blood pressure rise in you where you pick it up and you're like, oh, what do I do this? I have a responsibility to protect it. And I'm going to tell you, look, it is a known thing. People would carry documents around, especially political appointees around. And traditionally, you would put it in a pouch and you would secure it and you would lock the pouch and then carry it. That's not what was the norm in the White House. And I do think that there are numerous situations where you would see this kind of behavior. And look, it is something that in national security, for those of us that have clearances, again, you do have a responsibility to protect the information. And that means, you don't carry it home and store it for whatever number of months in an unclassified facility. It doesn't matter what it says, what it actually contains. The bottom line is that information is stored and should be carried properly and secured, because it can put lives at risk if that information gets into the wrong hands.
All right, and thank you for that. I'm glad you were here so I could ask you that follow-up question. All right, Chairman Steele, how concerned should we all be that election deniers are one election away from gaining the power to affect the 2024 presidential election?
Well, you've heard of like a 4 or 5 alarm fire. This is a 7 or 8. It is that serious in my view. All hands on deck. People need to understand that democracy is at the crux of this. What type of individuals do we want to put in place to govern us? Arizona is especially troubling because the margins there are so much more tighter, and Carrie Lake is just, she's this dressed up version of Donald Trump. And this is what a lot of us have been warning folks about, saying, that she doesn't have the idiosyncrasies of a Donald Trump and sort of the manic behavior. She's a polished television personality who's been able to translate her racism and her venom in a very cultured way. But you can see the ugliness on the edges. You can see it when she's confronted. You can see it when she's pushed back up against. And what the people in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona need to understand is you're on that front wall for us. You're on the wall for the rest of the country. Because of a Carrie Lake or a Mastriano in Pennsylvania, who've each said that not only would they try to undo the 2020 election, but they're prepared to make sure a Democrat doesn't win in their state ever again. If they are the elected officials, what do you think going into 2024 looks like? What do you think the results are going to be? So at some point, we need as citizens to rise up and stop thinking that Republicans are going to heal themselves. They're not. This infection has not only affected the heart, it's certainly affected the brain. And so there's no space here now where there's recovery per se. So it's on the rest of us to start standing in that breach and to prevent these individuals from seizing power. And that goes to the House of Representatives this November as well, because Kevin McCarthy is Speaker, folks. Looney Tunes.
Well, I mean, Tara Setmeyer said on this air many times, he ain't going to be the Speaker. But what you said about... I have to write that column. But, Chairman Steele, what you said about Kari Lake exemplifies what I've been saying for a long time now, and that is it doesn't matter whether Donald Trump is on the ballot in 2024. If a Kari Lake-like person or a Donald Trump-like person is on the ballot, that's just as bad or maybe even worse because they could be competent. Dana, in your book, you argue that our slide into this political dystopia can be traced back 25 years, back to Newt Gingrich. How did he set us on this horrible path?
Well, Jonathan, I looked at it in various different ways. One is sort of the constant use of disinformation and conspiracy theories, the sort of flirtation with violence. Remember back then, before the Oklahoma City bombing, the sort of welcoming of white nationalists and playing more deliberately the race card. And then the sort of notion of dysfunction in government and actually sabotaging government for your own political advantage. And I traced it through various iterations. And now we get up to, like, this is a perfect week to talk about destructionists and destruction in government because you see, first of all, you see the cavalier handling of potentially nuclear secrets, but the extraordinary knee-jerk reaction of Republicans with violent rhetoric, and from Fox News, violent rhetoric that's been understandably and expectedly met with actual violence. Not only that, you see the conspiracy theories saying, the FBI is corrupt, they have planted evidence. So you see welcoming violence, taking a whack at the basic institutions of government, trafficking in conspiracy theories. And Michael is right. I mean, the reason I wrote this book is a wake-up call to say, you need to call this out for what it is. Here is the script that's been used. It was used again this week. It'll be used in November. It'll be used in 2024. Democrats and progressives, or any small d Democrat, needs to recognize what this threat is and call it out for what it is.